Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk all about the supply of loanable funds. So with the supply of loanable funds, this is money that is going to be available for others to borrow. Movement along the supply curve for loanable funds is caused by a change in the interest rate. This is very similar to how we saw movement along the supply curve because of changes in price. So you can think of changes in interest rate as a change in price. And remember that for investors or people that are willing to save, interest is that kind of reward for saving money. Now, for the entire supply of loanable funds curve to shift, so to jump either to the right or to the left, there has to be something other than a change in the interest rate that occurs. This can be a change in income or wealth of those that are saving, changes in time preferences, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and consumption smoothing, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. So first up, we have changes in income and wealth. Changes in income and wealth are graphed as a shift in the supply of loanable funds. So this means the curve is going to jump either all the way to the right or all the way to the left. There's going to be a positive relationship between changes in income and wealth and savings. So as the world gets richer, funds make their way into the US loanable funds market, and this makes it a lot easier for US firms to borrow because there's a lot more money available. High income people and countries are going to save more than low income people or countries at the same interest rate. And that's just because if you have more money available to you, you're going to obviously have more of an opportunity to save. And that money that is put into savings and banks and bonds and things like that is available on that loanable funds market. So when people save, they also want to save where their interest rate or that reward for saving is going to be the highest. And this is why a lot of foreign entities invest their savings into the United States. As nations around the globe are gaining wealth, they're going to save more too. And over the past couple of decades, the increase in foreign savings has made its way into the US loanable funds market. Now, all else being equal, increases in income will generally mean increases in savings. And if income declines, people will generally save less. We recognize this propensity in both domestic and foreign savers. So it's not something that just happens in the United States. So in other words, people are going to save more dollars as that dollar income rises. The richer that you are, the more likely you are to save. Now, time preferences, this just means that people prefer to receive goods and services sooner rather than later. We know that because of things like Amazon Prime, fast shipping, expedited shipping, things like that. Faster is always better. And that's typically how we feel about money as well. We would prefer to have $50 now versus $50 later. Now, two general rules of preferences. People prefer more to less, obviously should be common sense, and people prefer now to late rather than later. So if you're going to make somebody wait, you have to compensate them by giving them more. As compensation for using their funds today, borrowers have to pay lenders. Now, when we have loans, the longer that loan term is, the higher that payment that you're making in excess of that original borrowed amount, because you have to pay that interest to whoever loaned you the money to compensate them for making them wait to be paid back. Keep in mind, time preferences are not going to be uniform across all individuals and societies. There are less patient people that prefer now to later, and those people will save less. But then there are also people who are more patient, they're able to save for longer, and because of that, they are able to get a little bit more of a return on their money. So here's an example. If you're trying to decide if you should attend college, you basically have two choices in this scenario. We'll kind of narrow it down. Option one is to just go get a job, and option two is to go to college. Well, with option one, you can earn income immediately and you're able to consume now because you have that money that you've earned and you're able to kind of consume now. You're able to go out and buy things. With option two of going to college, you do have to forego current income that you could be making by working, as well as that consumption that you could enjoy right now. However, there is that potential that you could have a higher future income and consumption because of that time that you spend in college. So every year that you're in college is a year that you could have earned income working full time. And the fact that you're currently a college student demonstrates that you're actually more patient than some others who chose to enter the workforce and earn income directly out of high school. Now, the truly impatient enter the workforce immediately so they can earn income and spend on consumption immediately. But college students typically earn more than high school graduates when you do eventually enter that workforce. And in the US specifically, more schooling does typically lead to more income. It's not a guarantee, but there is that trade-off between earning income and consuming today and delaying your workforce entry and earning more income later to consume later. So realistically, you do have a lot of choices on either side of this, but the fact that you are going to college does indicate that you are a more patient consumer and that it hopefully will benefit you in the future. So how will an increase in time preferences affect the loanable funds market? We'll give you a second to read through the options here. Remember, an increase in time preferences means that people are less patient, and this means that they would prefer to consume now, and later is not really considered. So because of this, there will be a decrease in the supply of loanable funds, and that's because less people are saving, they're spending today because they want to consume today. The next thing that we're going to talk about is consumption smoothing. This is going to be the last major aspect of this particular video. And this occurs when people borrow and save to smooth consumption over their lifetime. And when we see this graphically, it'll make more sense. What it boils down to is that over their lifetime, people will borrow, save, and then dissave. And we'll talk about what each of those mean. Young students and elderly retirees don't typically work, but most people do earn income in between those years. Now, keep in mind, as a young person or a retiree, you're still going to consume goods and services, and you have to pay to consume those. So whether that's by borrowing or by using up your savings, it is a cycle that we kind of see throughout your lifetime. So think about college tuition. Maybe you have to spend more than what you're bringing in income. So you have to get things like loans. And because of that, you're financing what you're spending through borrowing. After you finish school and you start to make more money, you're going to start saving more. And then once you enter your retirement years, you're going to start spending your savings, and that overall savings account will dwindle. Now, graphically, what this looks like, we'll see on this slide. We have our income and consumption on our y-axis or vertical axis, and then we have our life broken down into early life, prime earning years, and later in life. It becomes kind of a bell curve of income first because you don't make as much early on in life, you start to make more, and then you retire and you make less. Consumption also is a bell curve, but it's a little bit more smooth. So you can see that you're consuming quite a lot, but it goes up as you earn more, and then maybe as you retire, you start to budget more as well. So borrowing is what happens in your early life. Saving is what happens when you're in those prime earning years. And then dissaving is when we start to spend our savings when we're moving towards retirement. So graphically, this is kind of what you can expect for just about everybody. And it's just kind of interesting to see. Now, in that last slide that we looked at, which was that basic consumption smoothing model, when are consumers dissaving? Was it early in life, during our prime earning years, or later in life? And the correct answer here is that we would be dissaving later in life because that's when we start to spend that savings account. This is just to kind of show you graphically what the supply of loanable funds looks like whenever it shifts. So S1 is just going to be our normal supply of loanable funds curve. An increase in the supply of loanable funds is represented by a shift or a total jump to the right in the savings curve, so from S1 to S2. And this would be because of things like an increase in wealth, a decrease in time preferences, meaning we prefer more later rather than now, or an increase in the amount of the population in the savings part of their lifetime consumption smoothing. Now, a decrease in the curve that was caused by something other than changes in interest rates would be caused by a decrease in wealth, an increase in time preferences, meaning people want more now, or a decrease in the amount of the population that's currently in the savings part of their life. So this is going to be when we have less available in that supply of loanable funds. This is a really good summary of the supply of loanable funds. It shows you all of the different factors that we've talked about, what the direction of the effect is, and why that happens. So if you're trying to study and kind of make everything a little bit more concise, this would be a really good asset for you. That's going to be where we go ahead and end this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Otherwise, I will talk with you in the next one. Thank you.